Drives the man to lock his doors, left his windows tight, leave his house on timer so his house appears so bright. 10-foot fence around his doors, cameras on the wall, fortress so secure he can hardly get in at all. Fear is a villain, grips you late at night, catch you when your back is turned, is watching you. Sing a song for beauty, sing a song for me, sing a song for flowers in bloom and snow upon a tree. Sing a song for those who don't see beauty but see a shame. The beauty shall be ended and the ashes will remain. Drives a man to jealousy, to beat his loving wife. What drives a man to hatred, to take another's life? What drives a man to spend his life regretting chances lost? For when a man has lost his chance, one man can count the cost. Fear is a villain, grips you late at night, catch you when your back is turned, is watching you. Fight the man that turns on me. If I must fight or die, I will fight for losses, laws I can't abide. I'll try to fight with courage, always give my best. Though I must fight the fear itself that grows inside my breast. Fear is a villain, grips you late at night, will catch you when your back is turned, is watching you. Don't be afraid of the dark. Don't let those dark and lonesome voices speak to you. Don't be afraid of the dark. Just hold your head up high and that will see you through. Well, people talk of weapons, of threats to life and limb. They've different kinds of demons for the state that we are in. But fighting this fear's firstborn son, it's what the fear is for. Just undermine two people's trust and you can start a war. Fear is a villain, it'll catch you late at night, catch you when your back is turned, is watching you. Don't be afraid of the dark. Don't let those dark and lonesome voices speak to you. Don't be afraid of the dark. Just hold on high and that will see you through. One more time, here we go. Fear is a villain when it grips you late at night, catch you when your back is turned, it's watching you. So don't be afraid of the dark. Don't let those dark and lonesome voices speak to you. Don't be afraid of the dark. Just hold your head up high and that will see you through.
During his lifetime, many people in the world were comfortable with the conviction that Albert Einstein was the smartest person in the world. I don't know if it was false humility or more likely that the exchange was entirely apocryphal, but there's at least a story that says that he was once asked, what does it feel like to be the smartest person in the world? And he said, I don't know, you're going to have to ask Nikola Tesla to find out about that. But since both Tesla and Einstein are no longer with us, I wonder, who do you think is the smartest person alive in the world today? All fields, science, politics, religion, philosophy. Is there someone that stands out in your mind as being the smartest person alive today? Chomsky? Is that, did I hear that? Yeah? Anybody else? You know, I'm a big fan of John Spong, but I don't think he's the smartest religious scholar alive today. I would be inclined to hand that distinction to Karen Armstrong, but that being said, Spong is a lot easier to read. In the same vein, I'm a big fan of Neil deGrasse Tyson, but I don't think he's the smartest scientist alive. He just makes science really exciting and easier for people like me to grasp. But I think the distinction of smartest scientist probably goes to Stephen Hawking, or possibly even the impossibly young British physicist Brian Cox. That guy is just so smart. Well, not to drag this out too long, in my opinion, the smartest person alive today is the only person I heard anyone name, the MIT Emeritus Professor of Linguistics and Philosophy, Noam Chomsky. And he's not a bubbly public speaker, and he doesn't even try to make what he's saying easy to understand. But he's one of the few people in the world that you are basically impugning your own intellect if you disagree with him. Now, the smartest people in the world are not always right, and the completely uneducated, untutored, and uninformed people are sometimes right. But generally speaking, if you're going to disagree with someone like Noam Chomsky, you should probably try to make sure you've got a really good reason to do that. Last month, Chomsky spoke to a packed house in New York's famous Riverside Church, reflecting on what happened in November. What does it mean, and what are the implications of a presidential office of Donald Trump? What's it going to mean for the world and for the United States? And when one of the most intelligent people of the world is speaking about one of the most important events of modern history, it behooves us to pay attention. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, what he had to say was pretty dire. Chomsky is the sort of person who, as my friend Dan Goodwin likes to say, will tell you exactly how the cow ate the cabbage. I'm going to talk more about this speech one Sunday next month, but for now, let me just say that Chomsky is deeply concerned about two issues that could lead to the end of human life on Earth. One of those things is climate change, global climate change, which has now been made many times more threatening by the cascade of cabinet appointments in Trump's cabinet who are either climate deniers or total science deniers, people who clearly intend to accelerate the very activities that we know are making our planet uninhabitable to human beings. Chomsky was very clear in saying that Donald Trump wants us, this is exactly what he said, wants us to march towards the destruction of the species. Now, that doesn't feel good to say, but we need to be clear about what is at stake in the next few years. His other concern is about the very real threat of a renewed nuclear arms race with a narcissistic and clearly incompetent president in possession of the nuclear launch codes. My own muscle memory of the bad old days of the Cold War almost refuses to let me acknowledge once again the prospect of a nuclear war. But Chomsky and a number of professionals in the field fear that it is more likely for us to have a nuclear war now than it has ever been before. I don't want to believe that that could possibly be true, but that's why I'm quoting one of the smartest people in the world who clearly believes that it is true, and it would be foolish for us to not take that warning seriously. Now, any sane person who's taking either me or Noam Chomsky seriously at this moment has plenty of reason to feel fear. And that fear is what I really want to talk about today. I'm a big fan of the sadly nearly unknown British folk ballad singer Theo Bard. I asked our musicians to sing one of his songs as our wisdom lesson today because I think Bard captures a very important concept in his poetry. Why, he asks, do people choose to live behind 10-foot-tall security walls? Why do they put bars on their windows, cameras on their walls? Why does a suspicious man beat his wife? And I could add, why do millions of Americans keep buying handguns and automatic rifles when such weapons are exclusively produced for the purpose of shooting people? Please don't act like there's a sport behind handguns and automatic rifles. If you have an IQ as high as the cabbage the cow is eating, you know that handguns are exclusively for shooting people, and assault rifles are exclusively for shooting a lot of people. And the only reason for you to own one is because you are afraid. Amen. Fear, Theo Bard says, is a villain. It keeps you awake at night. It fills you with dread. And here I need to say something specifically to men, especially younger men. Men, you have been told a lie about how to be a man. Men have been sold a myth that anger is macho, that it's a powerful and manly response to the world. It's not. The root of anger is fear. Anger isn't macho, it's the opposite of being brave and strong. Anger is almost always just cowardice, fueled by the adrenal fight or flight response that we share with mammals like rabbits and squirrels. The next time you feel the need to abuse the woman in your life, or beat your kids, or buy a new gun, let me suggest that you try instead just growing a pair and stop being such a coward. Amen. Try being a man. Amen. Fear is a villain that robs us of our ability to think with maturity and clarity and reason. After 9/11, we passed the Patriot Act, the very thing that makes America America, the Bill of Rights. We start to give up our rights because we're scared. We start to spend money. The flu is 100 times more dangerous than Al-Qaeda, and yet we spend all this money on defense against terrorism, when the only way to defend yourself against terrorism is to refuse to be afraid. Just refuse to be afraid. The only thing that makes the next terrorist action take place is because it works. If it stops working, they stop doing it. We should invest more money in antibacterial hand soap. It would save more American lives than what we're spending on our homeland defense. Fear erodes our social skills. It divides families and races and communities. Fear is what makes us react negatively to people when we hear them speaking a different language in shopping centers or on subways. It's fear that makes us want to hate people who love differently. I mean, why has any heterosexual person ever been prejudiced against a homosexual? Why do you care? You're not being invited into the club. You're not even welcome in that club. Just mind your own business. We get scared because someone acts differently. Have you noticed how every time the police shoot someone here in Springfield, that our media immediately insists that the victim of the shooting had a mental health problem? That somehow, because they were mentally ill, we should have shot them. I mean, it just couldn't be any dumber than that. And when there's yet another mass shooting like there was in Florida on Friday, the media immediately scours the horizon to find someone to say that he had mental health issues. You know, he'd been in counseling, so he was obviously crazy, right? You give me 15 minutes alone with someone to get them to answer some questions, and I guarantee you that I can come up with a defensible diagnosis of some kind of mental health issue for every last one of you. And that's not just because you go to this left-wing church. I mean, wouldn't you say, Paul, that given enough time and energy, you could diagnose absolutely anyone on earth?
Give me a minute.
Just a minute. It'd take me 15 minutes. You're smarter than me. People who have mental health issues are not other than us. And that's what the media keeps trying to do. They keep trying to say that these gun violence things happen because they were other than us. They're not other than us. And frankly, if you own an assault rifle or a handgun, you're 90% of the way to a major character disorder diagnosis, so far as I'm concerned. So why do we sell these lethal weapons to clearly unstable people? And by unstable people, I mean all of us. Let me close today with some more comforting observations, and that's not a high watermark. Anything other than what I've said would be more comforting than what I've said so far. Although Chomsky's December address contained such dire warnings as I've described, he also cautioned his audience against giving up. We've come to a pretty dangerous place in American politics, but it isn't likely that we have collectively chosen a right-wing dictator. The majority of votes cast in our presidential election, a majority counted by millions of votes, did not vote for Donald Trump. Our nation has not collectively lost its mind. And though Chomsky, like many of us, was deeply saddened by the failure of the Democratic Party to seize a once-in-a-lifetime chance at a substantive change in the candidacy of Bernie Sanders, still, if the election had been purely decided by voters under the age of 40, Bernie would have not only won the nomination, but he would have won the general election. Older voters were not willing to go that far in the direction of democratic socialism. But the people who will be running this country when my generation has been laid to rest are not so afraid of real progress. If we can keep from either blowing up the planet or irreversibly poisoning it in the immediate future, if we can just give the next generation a chance, they may be the America we've always dreamed of being.
Amen.
Thank you for watching our videos. We are entirely dependent on the donations of our listeners and members. We hope that you find this content to be important enough to help us to keep offering these videos to the public at no charge by becoming a regular contributor. Please click on the donate button on our website at www.spfccc.org. Thank you for your support of progressive religious programming.